61 duels, 0 defeats. Not in a controlled arena, not with rules, in duels to death with Japan's greatest swordsmen, on muddy riverbanks and mountain passes and inside temple grounds. Miyamoto Musashi never lost. But here is the thing nobody talks about. Musashi didn't think the sword was the point. The sword was just the place where the real work showed up. The real work was something else entirely. Something the Stoics had a name for. Something that is available to you right now, whether you have ever held a sword in your life or not. Musashi was born in 1584 in Harima Province, Japan. His first duel was at 13. He fought a man named Arima Kihei, a trained adult swordsman. Musashi arrived with a wooden staff and no formal training. Arima Kihei never got up. By the time Musashi was 29, he had fought 61 duels. He had never lost one. His most famous duel was against Sasaki Kojiro, Japan's greatest living swordsman at the time. Musashi arrived late, deliberately late. He arrived on a boat carving a wooden sword from an oar he found on the way across. He killed Kojiro with the oar. Then he got back on the boat and left. Most people tell this story as proof of Musashi's arrogance. Read it again. It is proof of something completely different. He had nothing to prove to Kojiro. He had nothing to prove to anyone. The late arrival was not disrespect. It was the complete absence of the need for approval that the Stoics spent their entire philosophical tradition trying to teach. When Musashi was 60 years old, he retired to a cave, the Raigando Cave in Kumamoto. He stayed there for 2 years. He wrote. What he wrote was the Book of 5 Rings, Gorin no Sho, a manual of strategy, philosophy, and the art of living that has been studied by military academies, business schools, and philosophers for 400 years. The central teaching of the Book of 5 Rings is not about the sword. It is about one thing: the direct perception of reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. Musashi called it seeing with both eyes at once, the capacity to see the whole situation clearly without the distortion of desire, fear, or pride. The Stoics called it prosoche, attention. Marcus Aurelius practiced it every morning. Musashi practiced it in every duel. Every duel in 61 was won before it was fought, because Musashi had already seen clearly what was actually there. His opponents fought against what they feared. Musashi fought against what was. These are 2 completely different opponents. One of them is imaginary. One of them is real. You only defeat the real one. 2 weeks before Musashi died, he gave his manuscript to his most faithful student. Then he wrote one more document. He called it the Dokko-do, the way of walking alone. 21 precepts, written in the final days of a 60-year life of complete mastery. Some of them: do not pursue pleasure for its own sake. Do not act following customary beliefs. Do not, under any circumstances, depend on a partial feeling. Accept everything just the way it is. Do not seek to possess either goods or fiefs for your old age. Do not regret what you have done. These are not the words of a man summarizing a philosophy. These are the words of a man reporting back from the territory. He lived there for 60 years, alone. The Stoics would read the Duel and recognize it instantly. It is the same map, different language, same territory. The territory is what a human life looks like when it is lived entirely on its own terms, without performance, without the need for approval, without the distortion of what other people think. Musashi called it the way of walking alone. The Stoics called it virtue. Both names are correct. Musashi's lesson is not about the sword. It never was. The sword was the vehicle. The destination was always the same thing the Stoics were aiming at. A life lived so completely on its own terms that nothing external can destabilize it. No approval needed. No recognition required. No opponent powerful enough to reach the thing that actually matters. He chose austerity not because he was poor, but because he had tested comfort and found it made him less. He walked alone, not because he could not connect, but because he had tested dependency and found it clouded the seeing. The 61 duels were not the achievement. The duels were just the place where the practice was most visible. His real achievement was living 60 years without once deceiving himself about what he was. That is the whole practice. That is the dokoko. That is go-rin no sho. That is Stoicism. That is what every warrior in this series has been pointing toward. Stop fighting the imaginary opponent. See what is actually there. Act from what you actually are. That is the only rule. Miyamoto Musashi was undefeated in 61 duels. He chose a cave over a palace, an oar over a sword, walking alone over the comfort of a court. He was not lonely. He was complete. The Dokudo ends with this precept: do not let yourself be guided by the feeling of lust or love. Some translators say it differently: do not be dependent on anything outside yourself. The practice has one rule and 60 years of evidence that it works. Subscribe. Next video, Alexander the Great and what Marcus Aurelius said about the man who conquered the world. It will surprise you.